Louisiana, there are 8 known and documented Indian tribes, but only 3 of the tribes are native to Louisiana. As a result of forced migration and relocation, the Indian people and their various tribes live in communities sometimes hundreds of miles from their original home. When non-Indians talk about Indians, they usually refer to the Indians as being one big group. However, the different Indian tribes see themselves apart from one another with different histories and cultures. Next on Folks, we'll take a look at one tribe, the Houma Indians. We'll also investigate their struggles that are shared with most Indian people. That's next on Folks.
Everybody says folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just people all over the world. Folks to live, folks got to give, folks got to care, ooh, folks got to share. Our world is small, so very small. What touches one of all, ooh, touches us all. To stay alive, just to survive, folks got to be in harmony. Everybody just folks, just plain old folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just folks, everybody just folks, just plain old folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just folks.
Hello and welcome to Folks. Tonight we bring you to the bayous of South Louisiana. Along the bayous live thousands of people who survive on the rich and plentiful resources which abound here. Among these people are the Houma Indians, who were forced into the swamps and bayous more than 200 years ago. Tonight our story is about the Houma Indians and their culture, and it's also a story about the almost irreversible damage caused when a dominant society imposed itself on an Indian nation.
The earliest written recorded history of the Houmas dates back to March of 1682, when LaSalle, during his expedition of the lower Mississippi River Valley, came across a Houma village, and he recorded it in his journals. And since then, there's been many documentation of accounts with the Houmas. We have written accounts of Houma Indian wars among other tribes, times that the Houmas had out some of the early explorers out and gave them shelter and food during the winter seasons. And there's a lot of written, recorded history of the Houmas during that 16th, 17th century period.
There are about 6,500 Louisiana residents who claim to have Houma Indian blood. Primarily located in 5 parishes in southeast Louisiana, along the bayous and in the marshes, the Houmas continue their occupational tradition of being fishermen and trappers. But the Houmas weren't originally from South Louisiana.
The Treaty of Paris, signed by the French and the British, that removed the Houmas from the east bank of the Mississippi River to the west bank, and when it came down here in Terrebonne Parish, where we're located now, is that they had a gap of about 50 or 60 years that we didn't know, how did the Houmas come from way north Louisiana, which is from Baton Rouge up north into Mississippi, during the 1600 and 1700 up to 1738, 1775, they're still recorded around that area. And then all of a sudden we find them, we down here in South Louisiana, down in the marshes. And me, myself, all the history I read, and I never can put the two together. When did it transpire? When did the Houmas move down to lower Lafourche area, to the lower Terrebonne area? 50 or 60 years of history that was lost is non-existent.
When tracing Houma history, there are some gaps because Louisiana history books have neglected Indian history. But according to research that has been spearheaded by the tribe, a lot of historical information is beginning to be pieced together.
And actually what we're coming up with is that Governor Claiborne and some other state official at that time after Louisiana Purchase asked the Houmas to move,
They just asked them, or they forced
them? They asked them to move, and Well, the part I've read, they moved, the biggest majority of them moved from the East Bank to the West Bank voluntarily, because after the Treaty of Paris, they gave all Valencia parishes and all Baton Rouge area to the British. And when the Houmas found out about it, they were really upset, and they told Claiborne and all, said, you didn't have no right to give our lands to the British, to our enemies, the people that we've been fighting all these years. And so when they tried to move up to Baton Rouge and establish the British force, the Houmas came out and shot at them and everything, and to turn them around, they forced them back to New Orleans.
History wasn't the only aspect lost when the Houmas relocated to South Louisiana. All of their land east of the Mississippi River was given away and divided up between the Europeans. Much of the Houma culture was played down as the Europeans moved in and started molding the Indians into the European image.
The first Catholic mission ever built in the entire lower Mississippi River Valley was built as a mission to the Houma Indians by the Catholic Church.
Today, most of the Houmas speak French, and their primary religion is Catholic. The true Houma language and religion died when the last of the elders who remembered the old days was buried. Until about 15 years ago, the Houma nation was also considered dead. During the 30s, government officials claimed the only ethnics living in Louisiana were white or black. The Houma people and other Indian tribes just didn't exist anymore.
Did your grandma or anybody tell you anything about the Houmas before your grandparents?
Not that I remember.
Do you know why they wouldn't tell you anything?
I know that they had property somewhere on Bilofush and all around there. They still got some property that's never been cleared up in Bilofush somewhere.
Do you know very much about the Houmas other than nothing at all?
No, not too much, except what I know now.
Mm-hmm. What do you know now? What have you been told now?
Well, I've been told that we are Houma Indian. So that's all I can tell you.
Are you proud to be a Houma Indian?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
How come?
Because if I'm a Houma Indian, why not be proud of it?
Are you proud of being a Houma Indian?
Oh, yeah. A lot of people like that. I'm an Indian.
Do you know very much about your history?
Nope. I don't know nothing about it.
Do you want to know about your history and your culture and all that kind of stuff?
Don't really bother me.
Do you find that the young people are interested in the history?
Some of our people are, and some of them I don't know. It's hard for me to say, you know, and what I experienced so far, they've taken an interest in it, but really, like myself, you know, really going out and wanting to hunt and wanting to know, and I really haven't really found a definite pattern that with a lot of them wants to do that, but there's quite a few of them that does. They really want to know.
You know, I think that even now that there's a new resurgence of that identity. You know, many times children were brought up, you know, because of the hardship that the parents face, that they would just be told, well, look, you're Indian, and they would know that they're Indian, but parents wouldn't let them get too involved in Indian affairs because they were scared that it would bring problems for their children, you know, community or identity problems and things like that. But for the most part, that people know they're Houma and they're very proud to be Houma, even children today.
The Houmas, as well as other Indian tribes in the state, have made tremendous progress in regaining their tribal identity. For more than 50 years, the Houmas were not only neglected by non-Indians, they were also ridiculed for being Indians.
Areas where it was hard just getting identity, like registering to vote, they don't register white, black, and Indian, it's just white and black. When someone's born today, it's very difficult to get them to put Indian on a birth certificate because they say in Louisiana you're either white or black. And then if you want to change it to Indian, you have to go down to the courthouse and pay $8 to change it and provide about 6 different documents like a marriage certificate and both sets of parents' birth certificates and all kind of things that you have to bring in order to get them to change it to Indian, plus pay $8 every time you go. There's been a lot of problems in the past with land rights, education rights, and a whole host of things that have been a part of Homa existence in the last so many years. And so yes, we did have educational battles, and we had land rights battles, and we're still battling in a lot of areas.
There's different set of laws for governing Indian people, of which the state completely ignore, the parishes and the cities completely ignore, and the federal government completely ignore the Homa people altogether. They know we're here. They have us documents being here. They have enough records that we've been here. You know, people, the Homa people writing back and forth to Roosevelt and everything, and asking for aid. Even the BIA came down here back in the 20s and 30s, and still nothing was done.
For many of the Homas, their lack of identity was complicated with racial hatred. Some couldn't bear the pressure of being ethnically different from their white counterparts and chose to deny their Indian heritage.
I believe myself, you walk around here today and then you experience that, is that, you know, we're here and a lot of our people are definitely ashamed that they're Indian. They don't want to be said, especially the ones that moved out into the rural area, into the city areas. And, you know, they say, well, they're going to tell you I'm not Indian, you know. Some of them deny they're Indian. Even down here, I found that a lot of our people it's okay amongst ourselves, but with outsiders, they're kind of shy about it, and a lot of them will deny they're not Indian.
Why?
And, well, I think the prejudice was so great down here, especially in this area of the state, against the Homa Indians. We're the only tribe that was down here. And, you know, they suffered so much prejudice against the school, against public, you know, going into public places and everything. And if they can get away from it, they're going to get away from it. So myself, I feel they just don't want to suffer that prejudice anymore.
What about your grandchildren? Do you think they're proud to be Homa? Or part Homa?
Some of them. I can't answer for all, but...
Do you tell them stories about your grandparents and parents?
Yeah, I do.
Are they interested?
I don't know. I can't tell you that. I don't know if they are or not. Some of them are all right, but some are, well. My oldest daughter, she, you know, said she don't want to go to no meet and no none. She wants to say what she is. So what can I do? Can't make her do things. She's on her own. She's married. She raised a family. She's married to a white man. So what you going to do? She all her children, you know. So what can I do? Nothing.
What about the history? Do you feel at all bitter towards what happened to the Homas?
Very much so. It's, you know, very much so. A lot of people said I shouldn't feel that way, but I can't help it, you know, because I'm a victim that came up in the Terrebonne Parish school system when I was young. One of the first schools that was started down here, it was a Brother Martin started, a Baptist minister. And this, as far as I know, you know, I was 7 years old, like I told you this morning, and I really don't know really what happened. But I knew I went to that school for 1 year, and then the following year the school was closed, and we had to come down to the Dulac Catholic school, you know. And what transpired there, what it seems to me, what I found out later, they just about forced Brother Martin out of the church, out of the school, and refused to rent him the house. So he had to move to another location, which I believe...
Just because he was teaching Indian children?
He was teaching the Indian children.
Have you seen people cheating, your people, like the Homas, because they couldn't read or write, or because of, you know, they didn't have maybe some of the education? Do they get cheated out of land?
Oh, Lord, we got cheated out of a lot of land, us. My daddy had land at the temple that they took away from him.
Why did they take it away?
Crooked people, I guess. That's it, that's all.
Do you have any land now?
Still there, the land, nobody will. I would have been the only one who would have fight for it, and all by myself. I've only got one brother left, that's all. And so, a right brother, you know. And I'm too poor to go fight, put a lot of money and maybe lose and God knows what, so leave him keep the land.
Well, I think it done a great deal of damage, you know, because still some of our people still feel bitter, you know, about about the discrimination, especially about the school situation. Because, you know, we have a lot of people right now that's in their mid-40s, in their early 50s, and they could be holding good jobs and everything now, and they can't hold them because they don't have the education. They didn't have the opportunity to go to school, so now they are facing their whole life trying to hold jobs and trying to better themselves and move up in the job situation. After you spend about 10, 20 years on a job, you expect to move up, you know? And a lot of our people cannot do that because they don't have the education for them to move anywhere, you know?
I have a lot of thoughts on the media, the way it portrays the American Indian, and they're not all that good. Many times you'll see an Indian crawling through large grass, and he's got a knife stuck between his teeth, and he attacks and raids this village, you know, and the white woman's there hollering, "Help, please kill me before they get us," because you know how Indians treat white women and kids. And it's a very false image. Number one, the Indian did not scalp first. It was the Europeans that came to this country that introduced scalping to the American Indian. Number two, the Indians only protected what was sacred to them, and that was their hunting grounds. Indians battled among other Indian tribes over hunting grounds because that was something very, very sacred. And all of a sudden you had a big influx of Europeans coming in and taking everything away from them, their hunting grounds, things that were sacred, sacred burial grounds, destroying their religion, saying that no longer you can worship like you used to, now you have to be whatever their faith was. And, you know, more or less treating us as the heathen and as the savages, and I think that's a false image. You'll have a 6-year-old girl and she's watching the Indian movies and then she gets frightened. And then she goes, you know, and she's scared to death thinking, well, were we really like that? Are we really savages? And she goes to school and the little children beat their palms on their mouths and they run around in a circle and make those funny sounds that are supposed to sound Indian, and try and make the girl ashamed of what she is and call them savages and things, when they should, you know, they should portray the positive image. They see the bad. They don't see the contribution the American Indian made. Prior to Columbus coming over here in 1492, over half of the world's crops, as we know of today, was domesticated by Indians before 1492. Things like cotton, rubber, and peanuts, and you can go on that were contributed to this country by the American Indian, to which they really get no credit for.
Most of the Houma people say that they will forgive but not forget what has happened to them in the past, nor will they forget their ancestors. A few individuals have taken it upon themselves to dig down in their roots in order to simulate their original culture.
Well, myself, I learned how to dance about 7, 8 years ago, doing the traditional Indian dances. We say tradition, but usually it's powwow dancing, like they do the Oklahoma style, you know. And I've been going to Louisiana powwows and all. And I've been picking them up, learning, and my family's been doing this for 6 years now when we got into it. And I want to take it from here, you know, doing this type of thing like they do in Oklahoma and out west and everything. You know, it's great fun and it's a great enjoyment. I enjoy it. And I think once I expose the young people to it, you know, to this kind of dancing, and then we'll bring in our traditional, show them the different types.
The Houmas have also gone back to a tribal government. Once a month, representatives from the parish communities meet to discuss tribal business. The meeting places rotate so that the community can get in on the action.
One of the things, Gulf South Minority Purchasing Council wouldn't approve the Houmas prior to my going and meet with them because we weren't federally recognized. So they would not approve us under that program as a minority business thing. Then I went and I sat down, I met with him, and I gave him a copy of our history, our tribal history, and the things we've been through. And so he agreed when I left from there, yes, we'll certify the Houmas. The Houmas can come in through the program and be certified.
Does the government have any kind of real authority?
Well, we're sovereign in our affairs as far as we're concerned.
What do you mean by that?
to a large extent, the tribal council is the government for the tribe. We make decisions that will benefit the people, and we get input from the people as to those decisions. Like many times we'll have a community meeting on a particular issue or subject and get input from the community whether this should be the direction we're going or these should be the goals we shoot for. And from there, we make the decisions in the best interest of the tribe.
Even with the resurgence of an Indian identity, it doesn't mean much to non-Indians unless the government recognizes the tribe.
Up until 1976 or 78, I think it was, there was no established system for recognizing Indians by the federal government. Basically, it was a political type of recognition. Your congressman would enter in a bill into the Congress, and based on, of course, historical proof that your tribe had been in its ancestral homeland for so many years, and that the government was a traditional form of government which had been passed down from generation to generation, and that the community still practiced some of the traditions, such as, now they didn't hold it down to any one thing, language, traditions, the crafts, and so on. Based upon this kind of historical proof, groups were recognized if they could politically pull it off through Congress. In 1978, the Bureau of Indian Affairs established an office which is called the Federal Acknowledgement Project Office. The job of this office is to actually verify, number one, to come up with a criteria that is uniform, that applies to all Indian people throughout the country. And then two, to go out and research, assist, actually not really assist, but verify that groups who are submitting documentation stating we meet these criteria do indeed meet the criteria. It's a very, very slow process.
We're recognized by the state of Louisiana, and we're at this time petitioning or getting ready to file the complete petition for federal recognition. The tribe has officially never tried for federal recognition until now. This is our first real attempt at federal recognition based upon the 1978 criteria put out by the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
What does that mean? If you get to be a certified Indian sovereign nation, what does that mean?
It would just mean that the federal government will recognize us as an Indian group after 300 years of written history of being a distinct Indian ethnic identity here in the state of Louisiana.
Other Louisiana tribes are also applying for recognition from the federal government. 3 have already been certified. But even without the government's official seal of approval, the Indian tribes are now beginning to recognize and work with one another after 300 years of ignoring each other.
We are finding that as the resources are getting more limited, we're going to have to pull together in order to get a better quality of life for Indian people. The other thing is that the populations here in the state, the Indian population is very small. The 1980 census recorded 12,000 Indians, which of course was by self-identification. So how many actually enrolled Indians we have, we're not real sure. The thrust of the Intertribal Council has been to bring tribes together, tribal leaders together, to attack the similar issues that affect each tribal community and to give them a collective voice, that when one tribal chairman speaks, he can get the support of 4 others.
I'm pretty optimistic about the future. I think, you know, in the course of another year or two, that somewhere along there that we will be granted congressional sovereignty in the form of federal recognition. I think we'll settle whatever land claims the Houmas have and trespass claims. And following that, I'm just looking for economic development on behalf of the tribe where we can become self-sufficient by our own means and at the same time provide a social service delivery of programs to our people that are needed, the elderly, the handicapped, disabled, and some early childhood programs to benefit our children.
What about regaining some of those losses which the Houmas undertook when the Europeans came through?
I don't know about regaining all the losses that were inflicted upon us, but I think that we can make some stabs at progress by regaining some of the things that were lost.
The Institute for Indian Development has just been created in Louisiana by the Intertribal Council. The Institute will function as a brain trust of information for all 8 Indian tribes in the state. Right now, the Institute is trying to gather historical information, artifacts, and anything else that will expand our knowledge of Louisiana's original inhabitants. If you have any information or would like to know more about Louisiana's Indian population, contact the Center by writing to Institute for Indian Development, 941 Interline, Suite 41D2, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 70809, or call area code 504-926-7825.
Self-identification. So how many actually enrolled Indians we have, we're not real sure. The thrust of the Intertribal Council has been to bring tribes together, tribal leaders together, to attack the similar issues that affect each tribal community and to give them a collective voice, that when one tribal chairman speaks, he can get the support of 4 others.
I'm pretty optimistic about the future. I think, you know, in the course of another year or two, that somewhere along there that we will be granted congressional sovereignty in the form of federal recognition. I think we'll settle whatever land claims the Houmas have and trespass claims. And following that, I'm just looking for economic development on behalf of the tribe where we can become self-sufficient by our own means, and at the same time provide a social service delivery of programs to our people that are needed, the elderly, the handicapped, disabled, and some early childhood programs to benefit our children.
What about regaining some of those losses which the Houmas undertook when the Europeans came through?
I don't know about regaining all the losses that were inflicted upon us, but I think that we can make some stabs at progress by regaining some of the things that were lost.
The Institute for Indian Development has just been created in Louisiana by the Intertribal Council. The Institute will function as a brain trust of information for all 8 Indian tribes in the state. Right now, the Institute is trying to gather historical information, artifacts, and anything else that will expand our knowledge of Louisiana's original inhabitants. If you have any information or would like to know more about Louisiana's Indian population, contact the Center by writing to Institute for Indian Development, 941 Interline, Suite 41D2, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 70809, or call area code 504-926-7825.